The void of space was more than an absence of light. It was a crushing silence, a cold vastness that swallowed sound and warmth alike. Stars glittered like distant, indifferent eyes, their pinpricks of light flickering through the endless blackness, each one a sun to worlds unseen, stories untold. Amid this cosmic ocean, the battered hull of the Vespera drifted, a fragile shard of humanity's reach into the stars, scarred by unseen battles and the relentless wear of time. Inside the dimly lit command deck, Captain Diana Rodriguez leaned over the console, her eyes scanning streams of data that danced across holographic displays. The hum of the ship's systems was the only comfort against the oppressive emptiness outside the viewport. The scent of recycled air, faintly metallic and tinged with the tang of burnt circuits, filled the space. Every breath was a reminder. This was humanity's forward outpost, but a lonely one. Suddenly, an anomaly flickered on the sensors. A blip too small to be natural, too erratic to be machine debris. Diana's fingers moved instinctively, isolating the signal, her mind racing through possibilities. The Vespera was far from Earth, patrolling the edges of Kytharian space, a region steeped in mystery and long-standing tension. The anomaly pulsed again, faint but insistent, a whisper in the static. Diana's jaw tightened. Protocol dictated caution, but curiosity gnawed at her. She ordered the ship to alter course, the engines thrumming beneath her feet as the vessel turned toward the source. The stars outside shifted, streaks of light as Vespera accelerated, the silence broken only by the steady cadence of the ship's systems. Minutes stretched into an eternity as the signal grew stronger. Then, through the haze of distant stars, a shape emerged. A small craft, crippled, its hull scorched and broken like a wounded beast. Flashes of nebula gas painted the empty space with ghostly hues of purple and green, lending an eerie glow to the scene. The craft drifted helplessly, its life signs faint and erratic. Diana's breath caught. She keyed the comms, calling out in the universal language, hoping for a response. The cold, unyielding void answered with silence. But then, a flicker, movement inside the damaged vessel, fragile but unmistakably alive. Her mind raced through the implications. They were known as a proud warrior race, their history a tapestry of conquest and science, yet also mystery. To find one of their vessels adrift was unprecedented. To find survivors, unthinkable. Aboard the Vespera, the crew scrambled to prepare for rescue. The airlock hissed as it cycled open, and Diana led a team into the docking bay, the smell of ionized air mixing with the faint musk of burnt metal from the derelict craft. She moved with practiced precision, every sense alert. Inside the alien ship, the scene was chaotic. The interior was dim, bathed in a sickly blue light that pulsed weakly from damaged consoles. The walls were smooth and organic, shifting subtly like the inside of a living creature. The air was heavy, tinged with a scent unlike anything Diana had known, earthy yet chemical, a strange blend of life and machine. Amid the wreckage, two figures lay unconscious. The first was larger, a Kytharian adult, their skin a deep shade of cobalt, marked with intricate, bioluminescent patterns that flickered weakly in the dim light. Their face was angular, eyes closed in pain, yet their breathing was steady. Beside them, a smaller figure, a child by the looks of it, clung to life with fragile determination. Their skin shimmered with iridescent hues, the same patterns faintly glowing beneath the surface. Diana's heart tightened. They were alive, barely, and alone in the abyss. The instinct to save them surged through her, a testament to humanity's capacity for mercy, even toward those long-deemed enemies or strangers. Back on the Vespera, the medical bay buzzed with activity. Healing pods hummed as they enveloped the Kytharian pair, tending to wounds and stabilizing vitals. The sterile scent of antiseptic mingled with the faint, alien aroma clinging to the survivors. Diana stood nearby, her thoughts a tumult of anticipation and uncertainty. She watched the larger Kytharian's fingers twitch, bioluminescent veins pulsing faintly beneath smooth skin. Could they understand? What story did they carry? The child's eyes fluttered open, revealing depths of intelligence and fear, a mirror to humanity's own fragile existence. In the hours that followed, the bridge became a nexus of tension and hope. The Vespera's crew worked tirelessly to decrypt intercepted Kytharian transmissions, fragments of history encoded in symbols, both alien and eerily familiar. Decoded, the ship's xenolinguist and scientist, pored over data streams, her face illuminated by the glow of her workstation. Patterns emerged, clues to a past long buried. The Kytharians had once been explorers, seekers of knowledge and power, their civilization sprawling across galaxies. But arrogance led to downfall. Wars waged, ecosystems shattered, alliances broken. A cataclysm sealed in silence for millennia. And now, these survivors, remnants of that fractured history, were in their hands. Diana felt the weight of that revelation settle upon her shoulders. The universe was not a place of simple divisions, of friends and foes. It was a labyrinth of stories, each thread entwined with another, fragile and complex. The ambient sound of the ship's engines thrummed steadily, a heartbeat against the cosmic void. Outside, stars wheeled in silent arcs, distant and indifferent. Inside, life flickered. A mother and child, saved from oblivion by a human hand. An act that would ripple across time, unraveling secrets and sealing destinies. Diana's gaze lingered on the Kytharian pair, their breathing steady now, the glow of their skin pulsing softly, as if responding to the hope that had just been kindled. The child's eyes met hers briefly, a silent connection bridging species, a promise of unknown futures. In that moment, the boundaries between alien and human blurred. Compassion became a weapon more powerful than any fleet. Mercy, a shield stronger than any armor. The Vespera was no longer just a ship patrolling the edges of space. It was a cradle of new beginnings, a beacon in the endless night. And as the stars watched silently, the story of humanity, and of the Kytharians, was about to be rewritten forever. The cold expanse of space pressed against the viewport like a silent, indifferent witness. Stars shimmered in the ink-black void. Distant fires burning without warmth or mercy. Inside the cramped observation deck of the Kytharian vessel Jelkar, Commander Kryvar stood rigidly, every muscle taut with suppressed disbelief. The sterile hum of the ship's life support systems was a constant reminder of the fragility that clung to their survival. And now, the fragile anomaly that had shattered their long-held perceptions. Before him, the flickering holo display traced the trajectory of a battered escape pod, drifting erratically through the void. A faint signal pulsed from within, irregular and weak, but unmistakably life-signed. Decoded, the ship's lead scientist, hovered nearby, pale and trembling beneath the layers of his lab coat. His antenna twitched with a nervous energy, tiny receptors absorbing every nuance of the incoming data. The small life form aboard, the rhythmic pulse of a heartbeat, the faint warmth registered by the ship's scanners, belonged to a species the Kytharians had scarcely encountered before humans. To the Kytharian mind, tangled in millennia of cosmic study and cold logic, humans were an enigma wrapped in contradictions. Prone to violence yet capable of mercy, fragile yet terrifyingly tenacious. Kryvar's thoughts churned beneath the calm exterior. How had this human child survived the vacuum of space, adrift and untethered? The escape pod systems were barely operational, and the life signs weak, yet persistent. It was a defiance, a stubborn clinging to existence that defied every known biological limit. Decoded's voice, thin and strained, broke the stillness. Commander, their physiology, it's unlike any species we have on record. Their cells adapt rapidly to trauma. I have never seen such regenerative properties. His eyes were wide, reflecting a mixture of awe and unease. And the emotional signals. These humans exhibit something akin to empathy, but it is coupled with an aggressive protective drive. Kryvar nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of this revelation. The Kytharians prided themselves on their clinical detachment, their adherence to reason and logic. Yet here was a species whose very essence defied such neat categorization, one that could embody mercy and ferocity in equal measure. It challenged everything they believed about survival, evolution, and the nature of life itself. The escape pod lurched suddenly, systems stabilizing just enough to allow a faint transmission. A garbled voice crackled through the static, unmistakably human, and unmistakably female. Commander Diana Rodriguez. The words were fragmented, but the urgency pierced the electronic noise. Danger, protect the child, must not fall. Thexolin leaned closer to the console, fingers dancing over the controls to amplify the signal. The voice was steady, resolute, an echo of unyielding determination. It was a promise, a vow etched into the transmission, like a lifeline cast across the abyss. Kryvar's gaze hardened. This human commander had sacrificed everything to safeguard her child, to shield the future from annihilation. Such resolve was alien in its purity, an instinct so raw and fundamental it transcended culture, species, even logic. The ship's docking clamps hissed open, mechanical arms extending with practiced precision to seize the escape pod from its slow, spiraling descent. The pod's hull was scarred and battered, a testament to the brutal forces it had endured. The smell of burnt circuitry and decompressed oxygen filled the air, a sharp tang that lingered in the synthetic atmosphere. Inside the pod, the dim red glow of emergency lights revealed a small figure curled tightly against the cold. Ryan Sullivan, a human soldier, knelt beside the child, his face etched with exhaustion and fierce protectiveness. His breath came in shallow gasps, eyes scanning their surroundings with a haunted vigilance. Kryvar's mind raced as medics rushed in, their instruments beeping steadily as they assessed the child's condition. Thexolin hovered nearby, his scientific curiosity battling with a growing sense of reverence. These humans were not merely survivors. They were warriors of spirit, guardians of hope. The silence of the observation deck was a canvas upon which Kryvar painted memories. Visions of countless missions, battles fought and lost, civilizations risen and fallen. Yet none bore the indelible mark of such unwavering tenacity. It was a revelation that unsettled him deeply, stirring a tempest of doubt and wonder. The child stirred, fragile limbs stretching against the confines of the pod. The faintest smile flickered across a pale face, a beacon of innocence amidst the cold machinery. It was a reminder that life, in all its complexity, was a fragile thread woven through the fabric of the universe. Kryvar stepped back from the viewport, the weight of newfound understanding pressing upon his shoulders. The Kytharian Empire had always sought to catalog and control, to predict and dominate. But in this moment, faced with the unyielding resilience of humanity, he glimpsed the limits of their knowledge. Thexolin's voice softened, almost reverent. They are not merely a species, Commander. They are a force of nature, unyielding, unpredictable, and profoundly alive. Outside, the stars continued their silent vigil, indifferent yet eternal. Within the confines of the Julkar, a new chapter was beginning. One written in the language of mercy, courage, and the unbreakable bonds forged in the darkest reaches of space. Kryvar knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the core, that Earth had been sealed forever, not by chains or barriers, but by the fierce, untamable spirit of its inhabitants. And in that truth lay both hope and warning, a legacy that would echo through the cosmos for millennia to come. The low hum of the Kytharian command ship's core thrummed steadily beneath Kryvar's feet, a constant reminder of the fragile balance between life and oblivion. The dim corridors, lined with smooth, iridescent panels that shimmered faintly in the muted light, felt more oppressive than usual. Kryvar's multi-faceted eyes scanned the room ahead, their sharp angles reflecting the cold blue glow emitted from the console screens. The towering spires of stars outside the viewport brushed his thoughts with the vastness of space, but his mind was anchored firmly to the urgent puzzle before him. Thexolan had spoken hours earlier, his voice crackling with static through the ship's comm channels, revealing yet another layer to the cryptic human enigma. Kryvar's antennae twitched with restrained excitement and cautious skepticism. The second revelation was not just a data point, it was a paradigm shift. It promised to unlock the strategic patience and adaptability embedded deep within human history, traits that had until now been obscured behind layers of myth and misinterpretation. The air was thick with recycled oxygen, spiced faintly with the metallic tang of coolant systems working overtime to keep the vessel's core stable. Kryvar breathed in sharply, the scent mingling with a faint, earthy aroma that had been introduced from Earth's biosphere samples stored on board. Somehow, it was grounding, reminding him that this mission was more than just survival. It was about understanding, about decoding the very essence of a species that had confounded the galaxy's collective intelligence for centuries. Drawing closer to the largest console, Kryvar's elongated fingers tapped rhythmically on the holographic interface. A cascade of images flickered into existence: ancient Earth cities, their spires scraping the clouds, dense forests teeming with life, and, more hauntingly, scenes of conflict and resilience etched in time. Thexolan's translated archives had been painstakingly cross-referenced with Kytharian intelligence databases, revealing patterns that only a mind attuned to nuance could appreciate. Kryvar's thoughts drifted to the human who had altered the course of this entire endeavor. Commander Diana Rodriguez. Her decisive intervention, rescuing the dying Kytharian mother and child in the void, was not just an act of mercy, but a calculated risk laden with meaning. It had shattered assumptions, forcing the Kytharian High Command to reconsider humanity's place in the cosmic hierarchy. The second revelation delved deeper, unraveling the subtle dance of strategic patience and adaptability embedded within human history. As Kryvar immersed himself in the data, the ship's artificial gravity shifted imperceptibly, a reminder of the vessel's trajectory through a quiet sector of space. Outside the viewport, distant stars pulsed faintly, their light filtered through the ship's reinforced glass. The void beyond was silent, but alive with unseen energies. A fitting backdrop for the revelations unfolding within. The archive revealed humanity's penchant for endurance through cycles of upheaval and recovery. Unlike species that sought immediate domination, humans demonstrated an uncanny ability to wait, to observe, and to adapt their strategies over generations. Kryvar's eyes lingered on a sequence depicting early human settlements, their humble beginnings juxtaposed with later monumental achievements. It was a testament to patience, not reckless conquest but measured evolution. The sensory feed included audio snippets captured from ancient human broadcasts. The crackle of static gave way to voices, sometimes hopeful, sometimes defiant, echoing through the corridors of time. Kryvar felt an unfamiliar stirring within his chest cavity, a semblance of empathy that was rare among his kind. These voices were not merely sounds. They were the heartbeat of a species that survived not through brute force alone, but through the quiet resilience of spirit. Suddenly, the ship's alert system pulsed softly, a reminder of the precariousness of their own mission. The Kytharian fleet's advance had been stalled by unknown factors, and the delay had bred impatience among the ranks. Yet, the second revelation underscored that impatience was a human weakness they had learned to exploit. The human strategic patience was not passive, it was a living, breathing tactic honed by millennia of necessity. Kryvar's mind replayed the memories of his last encounter with Ryan Sullivan, the human soldier who had fought alongside Diana with a ferocity that defied expectation. The battle had been brutal. Metal screamed against metal, and the acrid smell of burning circuits hung heavy in the air. Yet, amid the chaos, the humans had demonstrated an uncanny ability to anticipate, to adapt swiftly to shifting conditions. It was as though their survival instinct was intertwined with an innate understanding of timing, a perfection of patience wielded as a weapon. The Kytharian commander allowed himself a brief moment of reflection, the cold steel beneath his feet grounding him, as he pieced together the subtle implications of the data. Humans did not merely survive. They thrived in complexity, weaving patience with adaptability into a tapestry of calculated moves that could outlast and outmaneuver the most technologically advanced foes. This revelation was not a mere academic insight. It was a warning and a lesson. The soft hiss of venting air punctuated the silence as Kryvar adjusted the environmental controls, allowing a slight increase in humidity. The recycled air carried with it a faint trace of ozone, mingling with the subtle scent of ionized particles from the ship's core. It was a sensory reminder of the delicate balance between life and machine, mirroring the intricate balance humanity had mastered within their own history. His thoughts drifted back to Earth, a planet now sealed by Kytharian decree. It was a decision born from fear, as much as it was from respect. The data had shown that humans possessed an extraordinary ability to shift tactics, to endure hardship without losing sight of their ultimate objectives. This adaptability made them unpredictable and dangerous in ways the Kytharians had not fully comprehended until now. The second revelation laid bare the core of this unpredictability. Humans embraced change not as a threat, but as an opportunity. Whether through cultural shifts, technological leaps, or social revolutions, they recalibrated their strategies with an almost instinctual precision. This was not the reckless impulsiveness the Kytharians had once assumed. It was strategic patience in motion, a slow, burning flame that could ignite with sudden, devastating force. Kryvar's eyes caught a glimmer of movement outside the viewport, a solitary asteroid drifting lazily against the backdrop of starlight. Its trajectory was unhurried, measured, much like the human approach now etched into the Kytharian archives. The comparison was not lost on him. In the vastness of space, survival depended on timing, on knowing when to strike and when to endure. With deliberate care, Kryvar accessed the final segment of the Decoded intelligence, a series of simulations reconstructing key epochs in human history. The visuals unfolded like a living tapestry. The rise and fall of empires, the spread of ideas, the subtle shifts in alliances and enmities. Each thread was a lesson in adaptability, each moment a testament to the power of strategic patience. The ambient light dimmed further as the ship's systems entered a lower power state, casting elongated shadows that danced across the holo display. Kryvar's mind raced, piecing together the implications. The humans had survived, not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they mastered the art of waiting and adapting. They could endure storms that would shatter lesser species, recalibrating their course with quiet determination until the moment was right to act. A faint vibration coursed through the deck plates, a reminder that the ship was alive, a complex organism navigating the void. Kryvar felt a kinship with this vessel, both of them carriers of legacy and uncertainty. The decision to seal Earth had been born out of necessity, yet now, with the weight of the second revelation pressing upon him, Kryvar understood that sealing was but a chapter in a longer story, a story defined by patience, by the relentless adaptability that the humans embodied. He raised a clawed hand, fingers brushing against the holographic interface, tracing the contours of a human face etched in historical data. Commander Diana Rodriguez's visage, resolute and unyielding. It was a face that represented more than leadership. It symbolized the spirit of a species that had endured countless trials through the ages, always learning, always evolving. Kryvar inhaled deeply, the air tasting faintly metallic yet grounding, a sensory anchor as he prepared to relay his findings to the Kytharian Council. The second revelation was more than a data point. It was a call to humility and vigilance. To underestimate humans was to invite catastrophe, for within their strategic patience and adaptability lay a power that could outlast empires and rewrite destinies. As the stars outside flickered in silent testament to the passage of time, Kryvar's resolve hardened. The Kytharian mission was no longer just about containment. It was about understanding the rhythms of a species that defied simple categorization. The second revelation had illuminated a path forward, one that demanded respect, caution, and a deep appreciation for the intricate dance of patience and adaptability that defined humanity's enduring legacy. The soft, steady pulse of the ship's core echoed in Kryvar's chest as he settled into the command chair. The journey ahead was uncertain, fraught with peril and discovery. Yet, armed with the knowledge gleaned from the decoded history, Kryvar felt a flicker of hope. A hope that perhaps, through patience and adaptability, even the most sealed doors could one day be opened anew. The chamber was suffused with a muted amber glow, the soft illumination coming from bioluminescent veins, weaving through the crystalline walls like veins of living fire. Kryvar's multifaceted eyes adjusted to the light as he stood alone before the central console, the hum of ancient machinery vibrating faintly beneath his feet. The air was thick with a scent he recognized, ozone mixed with a faint trace of scorched metal and something floral, almost like jasmine, lingering from the last activation. It was a scent that carried memories, and today those memories unraveled like threads pulled from an ancient tapestry. He reached out, his clawed fingers brushing the smooth surface of the console. The holographic display flickered to life, projecting a translucent map of stars and timelines, shifting and folding like a living thing. The data was complex, layers upon layers of history encrypted in the Kytharian archives. History that until now had been obscured by time and secrecy. But now, as if the universe itself conspired for revelation, the truth was laid bare. The third revelation came not as a thunderclap, but as a tide sweeping over Kryvar's consciousness. Compassion intertwined with fierce loyalty, a duality he had never fully comprehended. He watched, entranced, as the images on the screen coalesced into a story, a living record of humanity's past and the unbreakable bonds forged in the crucible of survival. He could see the scene as if he were there, a small, dying alien mother cradling her child in the void of space, their vessel crippled and drifting towards oblivion. Their species had been hunted, scattered, and nearly extinguished by the merciless tides of war. Their desperation was raw, palpable, the cold vacuum pressing in like a silent grave. Then, from the darkness, emerged a human ship, sleek, powerful, with engines that sang with controlled fury. The ship's commander, Diana Rodriguez, was at the helm, her gaze unwavering despite the chaos swirling around her. Kryvar felt the intensity of her resolve, the sharp edge of her will cutting through the void. He saw the moment she made the impossible choice, to risk her crew and her mission to save the forsaken mother and child. It was a moment that defied Kytharian logic, which prized strategy and caution above all. But Diana acted on something different, something ineffable. The alien mother and child were brought aboard the human ship, their lives spared by an act that seemed almost reckless, yet born from an intrinsic humanity. Kryvar's multifaceted eyes narrowed as the data shifted, revealing the deeper layers of this narrative. Mercy, he understood, was not a weakness, but a thread woven through the fabric of human existence. It was the seed from which fierce loyalty sprouted. The humans did not save the aliens out of pity, but out of recognition, an understanding that their fates were bound together. The scenes unfolded with extraordinary clarity. The infant alien nestled safely in a makeshift cradle aboard the human ship, its fragile breaths mingling with the steady hum of the life support systems. Diana and her soldier, Ryan Sullivan, stood watch, their vigilance unwavering. The child's survival depended not only on technology, but on the protective ferocity of those who had chosen to stand against extinction. The ambient buzz of the chamber seemed to echo the chorus of silent cries and whispered promises from that fateful rescue. Kryvar felt the weight of those emotions as if they pressed against his very being. Hope mixed with fear, tenderness laced with unyielding strength. As the humans journeyed through the stars, their bond with the mother and child deepened. Kryvar watched how Diana's leadership transformed, shaped by the responsibility she carried. Not just for her crew, but for lives that had no place in her own world. The Kytharian commander observed the subtle gestures, the way Ryan would hum lullabies in a rough, but strangely tender voice. The way Diana's eyes softened whenever she glanced at the infant. These moments were transient but powerful, threading compassion into the tapestry of survival. The revelation struck Kryvar with a profound force. Mercy was not merely an act of saving life, but a catalyst for an unbreakable chain of protection. Humans held an innate capacity to intertwine their fates with others in ways that transcended self-interest. Their fierce loyalty was a shield as much as a sword, defending not only their own, but also those they chose to embrace. Suddenly, the narrative shifted again, faster and more violent. Kryvar's gaze locked onto a vivid sequence, an ambush in the void, enemy ships descending like ravenous beasts. The humans fought with a terrifying precision, their tactics brutal and unrelenting. The calm mercy of saving the alien mother and child now erupted into a tempest of protective rage. He saw Ryan Sullivan, standing shoulder to shoulder with his commander, unleashing a storm of firepower, his every action steeped in a raw, instinctive drive to protect. The humans' technology was formidable, but it was their spirit, their willingness to sacrifice everything for those they had sworn to protect, that gave them an edge no machine could replicate. The scene was chaotic, the chamber around Kryvar seeming to pulse with kinetic energy. The sharp crackle of laser fire, the rumble of exploding hulls, the tense coordination of human voices in the heat of battle played through his mind like a symphony of survival. He could almost taste the acrid tang of burning plasma and feel the electric charge of adrenaline coursing through the veins of those fighting. Yet beneath the fury was a deliberate, unwavering purpose: to ensure the safety of the mother and child, to safeguard the fragile life that had been entrusted to them. Kryvar realized that this was the essence of the third revelation, the fusion of compassion and ferocity, two sides of a coin that defined humanity's approach to survival and alliance. He observed the final moments of the battle, the humans emerging battered but victorious. The mother alien, weary but alive, held her child close, her gratitude etched into the lines of her face. Diana, bloodied but unbowed, stood at the center, a beacon of hope and defiance. The bond between them was no longer fragile, but forged in the crucible of shared sacrifice. Kryvar's mind raced to comprehend the implications. The Kytharian archives had long documented the histories of countless species, their rises and falls marked by conquest, betrayal, and annihilation. Yet here was a story that defied the cold calculus of extinction. Humanity had rewritten the narrative, sealing Earth's fate forever, not with walls or weapons, but through a legacy of compassion interwoven with fierce loyalty. It was a revelation that demanded reflection. Kryvar sank to one knee, the weight of centuries pressing down upon him as he contemplated the human paradox. Their capacity for mercy and their readiness for war, united in an indomitable will to protect. He could feel the pulse of that will echoing through the ages, a resonance that threatened to reshape the destiny of the stars themselves. The chamber's light dimmed, and the holographic display faded, leaving Kryvar alone with the silence and the scent of jasmine. The revelation was no longer just data. It was a living truth, a seed planted deep within his soul. He rose slowly, the ancient armor of his species creaking softly as he moved. The knowledge he carried now was a burden and a beacon. There would be no returning to ignorance, no retreat into the cold doctrines of old. Humanity's story was a testament to the power of mercy and the fierce loyalty born from it. Kryvar's thoughts drifted to the broader implications. If this was the key to humanity's survival, could it also be the key to interstellar peace? Could the legacy of that single act of kindness ripple outward, sealing Earth and its people in a protective halo? Or would it ignite a firestorm, a message too potent for others to ignore? The air shifted around him, the chamber seemingly alive with possibility and peril. Kryvar knew the path ahead was uncertain, fraught with dangers both known and unseen. Yet within him burned a new resolve, a spark kindled by the third revelation. He would carry this truth back to his people, and perhaps beyond. The story of the human savior, the dying mother, and her child was more than history. It was a call to recognize the profound power of compassion, entwined with fierce loyalty. It was a message etched into the very fabric of existence, a seal placed upon Earth forever. And as Kryvar stepped away from the console, the scent of jasmine lingering like a promise, he understood that some truths, once revealed, could never be unlearned. The stars themselves seemed to whisper in agreement, their light bearing witness to humanity's enduring legacy. The cold void of space stretched endlessly beyond the viewport, a vast obsidian canvas dotted with distant stars, their light flickering like ancient candles, battling the infinite dark. Inside the cramped observation deck of the battered Kytharian frigate, the air was thick with tension, heavy and suffocating. The metallic scent of recycled oxygen mingled uneasily with the faint trace of burnt circuitry, a reminder of the recent skirmishes and mounting system failures. Kryvar stood rigid beneath the dim, flickering emergency lights, the deep crimson of the vessel's warning glow casting long shadows across his gaunt face. His many eyes, glistening like polished obsidian, scanned the holographic display that floated midair, its blue light pulsing ominously as it projected the precarious position of the tiny human ship, a fragile speck against the vast Kytharian armada converging on Earth. Every fiber of Kryvar's being urged him to act, to unleash the full fury of the fleet and enforce the ancient edict to quarantine the planet. Yet, a subtle war raged within him, battling the ingrained doctrines with the memory of the human child, the fragile, vulnerable life cradled in the worn arms of their savior. The Xolan's data streams flickered beside him, the scientist's voice now a quiet hum in his mind, decoding the layers of human history and revealing a species whose kindness was both a balm and a blade. The deafening silence shattered as the first salvo erupted, brilliant streaks of plasma tearing through the blackness, illuminating the battlefield in violent bursts of blue and orange. The human ship, battered but unyielding, maneuvered with a desperation born of hope and unyielding will. Its shields shimmered under the barrage, flickering like a fragile bubble struggling against a tempest. Kryvar's antennae twitched, attuned to the subtle vibrations that rippled through the ship's hull, the resonance of engines pushed to their limits. From his vantage point, Kryvar could see her, Commander Diana Rodriguez, her silhouette framed against the glowing control panels, eyes burning with a fierce determination that transcended fear. She was no mere soldier. She was a bastion of humanity's enduring spirit, embodying the very essence of mercy that had once saved his own flesh and blood. He watched as she issued silent orders, fingers dancing over the console with practiced precision, orchestrating a defense that was as much about heart as strategy. The Kytharian fleet tightened its noose, vessels closing in like relentless predators. Xolan's voice whispered warnings of imminent breach, Earth's defenses faltering, The quarantine lines shattered. Yet, the human ship held firm, its crew a symphony of resolve. Kryvar's mind raced, memories of the dying mother and child haunting the edges of his consciousness. They had been fragile, innocent, yet their survival had sparked a revolution in his understanding, unraveling millennia of prejudice and fear. Suddenly the deck shuddered violently, a concussive blast that threw Kryvar against the bulkhead. Alarms blared, the shrill cacophony weaving through the confined space, drowning out all but the pounding of his own heartbeat. The walls groaned under the strain, fissures blooming like black veins along the steel surfaces. Amidst the chaos, Kryvar's gaze locked onto the external viewport, where the human ship now drifted perilously close to the planet's atmosphere, its engines flaring in a desperate bid to outpace the encroaching fleet. In that moment, the true magnitude of humanity's sacrifice crystallized before him. Diana's voice crackled through the comms, laced with urgency and an unyielding resolve that resonated deep within his core. We're not just fighting for survival. We're the shield, the barrier they cannot breach. The phrase echoed in Kryvar's mind, a mantra that captured the essence of what he had witnessed. Humanity's mercy had been their salvation, their protectiveness, an unbreakable shield, forged in the crucible of compassion and ferocity. As the human vessel descended, it became a living barrier, a line drawn in the cosmic sands, sealing Earth's fate with their very lives. Kryvar's eyes narrowed, the hard edges of his mandibles tightening with a newfound respect. The battle was no longer a mere conflict of territory or survival. It was a testament to the indomitable will of a species that refused to be defined by fear or hatred. Each plasma burst that tore through the void was met with a calculated counter, every sacrifice weighed against the priceless value of mercy. Vexolan's holographic data flickered, revealing the intricate web of human history, a tapestry woven with threads of kindness and brutality, innovation and destruction. Yet it was the moments of mercy, the acts of courage that preserved life against all odds, that had reshaped the course of the war. Kryvar realized then that the humans' greatest weapon was not their technology or their numbers, but their capacity to protect what mattered most, even at the cost of themselves. A sudden explosion rocked the ship, throwing Kryvar to his knees. The deck trembled beneath a barrage of plasma fire, the enemy closing in with relentless precision. Yet, as the ship's systems faltered, a new light ignited within the human vessel, a beacon of hope and defiance. Kryvar watched, breath caught in his throat, as Ryan Sullivan, the young human soldier, emerged from the smoke and debris, his eyes blazing with a fierce protectiveness that mirrored Diana's. Ryan moved with purpose, his form a silhouette of determination against the flickering flames. He was more than a soldier, he was the embodiment of humanity's unyielding spirit, a living shield raised against oblivion. In that moment, Kryvar understood, the true battle was not just for territory or survival, but for the right to protect, to love, and to endure. The ship's shields flickered, energy reserves draining, but the human crew pressed on, their resolve unbroken. Kryvar felt a surge of something unfamiliar, admiration, respect, and a profound sorrow for the lives sacrificed in a war that transcended species and stars. The sealing of Earth was not a condemnation but a promise, forged in the crucible of humanity's mercy and terrifying protection. As the human vessel plunged into the atmosphere, its engines roaring like the final heartbeat of a dying star, Kryvar stood tall, his resolve transformed. The Kytharian fleet halted, the ancient edicts rewritten by the indomitable will of a species that had shown them the true meaning of mercy. Earth was sealed, not by chains or barriers, but by the unbreakable human shield, a testament to a legacy that would echo through the cosmos for eternity. The stars outside shimmered with renewed brilliance, as if bearing witness to a new chapter in the cosmic tale. Kryvar's gaze lingered on the fading silhouette of the human ship, a silent vow etched into his being. The war was not over, but hope had been kindled, and with it, the promise of a future where mercy and protection would reign supreme. In the deep silence that followed, the weight of history settled upon Kryvar's shoulders. He was no longer just a commander of war. He was a guardian of a legacy born from the depths of compassion and the relentless courage of a species that had sealed Earth forever. Not as a prison, but as a sanctuary. The unbreakable human shield had forged a new destiny, one that would ripple through the stars long after the battle had faded into memory. The hum of the ancient starship had dimmed to a low murmur, like a dying heartbeat echoing through cavernous halls. Kryvar stood alone in the observation chamber. The vast expanse of space stretched before him like a black canvas dotted with distant stars. Cold, indifferent, and untouched. The Kytharian commander's gaze lingered on Earth's pale, blue glow, suspended in the void beneath swirling clouds and the delicate shimmer of oceans. So fragile and yet defiantly vibrant. For centuries, his people had chased dominion over the galaxy, driven by ambition and fear, by survival and the endless march of their empire. They had delved deep into the archives of countless civilizations, their scientists relentlessly piecing together histories, decoding signals, and mapping the rise and fall of species. The Kytharian intel had uncovered many secrets, but none as perplexing and profound as that of humanity. The Xolan's data had been unequivocal. Earth was to be sealed off. No other species was to approach. The humans, with their mercurial nature and unpredictable capacity for both kindness and savagery, were a wild card in an order predicated on control and certainty. And yet, the incident, a dying mother and child alien rescued by a human, had shattered preconceived notions. That solitary act of compassion, witnessed and recorded by Kytharian sensors, had exposed a deeper truth. Kryvar closed his eyes briefly, recalling the moment the human, Commander Diana Rodriguez, had risked everything. Amidst the chaos of collapsing star systems and marauding space pirates, she had reached out without hesitation. Her ship had plunged into the swirling debris field, engines groaning, shields flickering under assault, to retrieve the fragile Kytharian survivors. There was no calculation in her mercy, no demand for reward or diplomacy, just raw, pure empathy. The thought stirred something ancient within Kryvar's stern heart. Was this the missing piece? The anomaly in the grand design? The Kytharians prided themselves on logic, order, and the cold calculus of survival. Yet, here was a species that measured worth not by power or lineage, but by the courage to care, even in the face of annihilation. The observation chamber was suffused with the metallic scent of recycled air and the faint hum of cooling systems, a sharp contrast to the infinite silence beyond the reinforced glass. Kryvar's fingers traced the etched surface of the console beside him, cold and unyielding, as he wrestled with the implications. The Kytharian Council had decreed the sealing of Earth's space lanes, a protective quarantine to shield the galaxy from humanity's volatile potential. But now, he questioned whether that act was a shield or a prison. He remembered the last transmission from Xolan, the scientist whose obsession with human history had driven him to extremes. Xolan had seen in Earth's chronicles a pattern of resiliency civilizations, torn down by war, tyranny, and disaster, yet always rising anew, infused with hope and an indomitable will. The human's history was a tapestry woven with threads of darkness and light, brutality tempered by compassion, destruction balanced by creation. As Kryvar pondered this, the soft vibration of approaching footsteps echoed down the corridor. Ryan Sullivan entered, his uniform marked by the insignia of the human fleet, a quiet but unyielding presence. The young soldier's eyes carried the weight of recent battles, yet also the spark of unbroken resolve. No words were exchanged, none were needed. Ryan's presence was a living testament to the humanity Kryvar was beginning to understand. The Kytharian commander gestured toward the window, and together they watched Earth spin slowly, a silent orb of life and endless possibility. It was here, in this shared silence, that Kryvar made his decision. The sealing of Earth would remain, a barrier to protect and preserve, but it would no longer be a sentence of exile or fear. Instead, it would be a covenant forged in the fires of uncertainty and hope, a promise between species to respect boundaries, yet remain open to connection, to understanding. Kryvar's voice, deep and resonant, broke the stillness. He spoke of change, of the need to grow beyond ancient prejudices, to embrace the complexity of life rather than suppress it. The Kytharian protocols would be rewritten, their policies softened by the revelation that mercy was not weakness, but strength. Ryan listened, his face illuminated by the soft glow of the stars outside. In that moment, he felt the weight of history shifting beneath his feet, the future unfurling like the dawn light scattering shadows. Outside the ship, the cosmos stretched infinitely, a silent witness to the fragile truce being born in this small, steel chamber. The stars shimmered with quiet approval, as if acknowledging that even in the vast, indifferent universe, the spark of empathy could blaze bright enough to change destinies. And so, Earth remained sealed, guarded not by walls of fear, but by a new understanding, a testament to a human act of kindness that echoed across the void, binding disparate worlds in a fragile, hopeful alliance. Kryvar turned from the window, determination hardening his features. The galaxy was vast and filled with unknown perils. Yet, in the heart of that darkness, humanity had shown a light worth protecting. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in millennia, the Kytharians faced it with something resembling faith. Faith that mercy, this fragile, terrifying mercy, might be the key to survival for all species in the endless night of space.